channel. Today we are going to be working on a forum feature. We are going to be giving forum administrators the ability to enable or disable Google ReCAPTCHA when users are signing up to join their forum using email and password. And so there are multiple ways to authenticate yourself to a forum. You can use your GitHub account, you can use Facebook, you can use Twitter. And one of the more recent authentication methods that we've added is email password. And so now users are able to sign up to a forum using their email and password. And so the feature that we're building out today is going to give the creator of a forum or an administrator, because you can have multiple administrators, to give them the power to enable or disable ReCAPTCHA during email sign up. And we are familiar with ReCAPTCHA. It allows you to prove during a sign up process or joining an email list. It allows you to prove that you are not a robot, right? You have that little box and it says prove that you are human, and you check it and maybe complete like a number of challenges. And the whole idea is to weed out the spam bots that are seeking to create spam accounts. And so we're going to give our forum admins the ability to enable or disable this feature when people are signing up. So let's get started. On the right of my screen, I am already signed into the admin section for my localhost forum, and we are in the configuration section, and I'm just going to show you what it looks like now, right? And so this is where you can change authentication settings, and right down here in the email address and password section. So we are allowing people to log in using their email. So if they already have an account that they signed up for using email password, they can log in. And we are allowing people to also create a new account using their email password. And so the feature that we're building out is going to go right under here. All right, it's going to go right under here, and it's going to allow the forum admin to either enable or disable. Now, there is another section. Let me close here. Right down here, we have the section where we actually enter our Google ReCAPTCHA keys, right? And I think I'm going to do that in a separate video, how to go ahead and set up, go ahead and get your keys from Google ReCAPTCHA so that you can use it here. Because if you don't have actual keys here, then you're not going to be able to test it on the front end if you want. Over here on the left side of my screen, and let me go ahead and minimize the size of my head. This is the design that we have received from our wonderful designers at Forem. And so if you see how it is right here, we're entering the keys in a completely different section, right? This Google ReCAPTCHA key section. And so our designer has modified that a little bit, and we are going to be bringing those keys into the authentication section here. And those keys, the field for those keys are going to live right underneath the option to enable or disable Google ReCAPTCHA. And so this is the mock-up that we are using in our work today. All right, I should say that this is a pretty beefy feature that we're building out, because we are going to configure the enable disable of the feature, and we're also going to write tests. So I'm probably going to break this video into multiple parts just so that each video doesn't get super long. All right. Okay, so let's get started. Let's go to our code. I use Visual Studio Code for my coding, just so you know. All right, and so when I look at the mock-up that we when I look at this, I'm approaching this from the perspective of, okay, how am I going to get started with this? And so this is an enable disable, right? We're enabling or disabling ReCAPTCHA. And so we already have other enable disable set up with the login and the registration. So mentally, I'm thinking I can use that as a template. I can use the code that already exists for allowing email and password login, I can use that as my template for setting up my own feature. And so, like I said, my videos, I really try to open the door and be transparent as to my process of developing or building out a feature. And so opening the code, let's go in and see what we can see. Now we are, this page over here, this is under our admin namespace, right? And so coming into the code, I am going to, it's a view. And so, and I should say we are built on Ruby Rails at Forem. So we come to views and we come to admin, and looking down admin, let me extend this just a little bit. Looking down the folders in admin, we see configs. So that makes sense because if you remember, over here we have admin and we have configs. And so let's open up configs, and then we see the show page, right? All right. And you know, one of the ways that, let me go ahead and wrap my text. Okay. So one of the ways that, you know, I try to verify, am I in the right file, is I'll look for some text and see if that text appears on my page. And so we see here only admins with explicit single resource admin, and we see that right here. And so that lets me know that I'm probably in the right place. All right. And so let's go ahead and look for the setting where the Forem admin can enable or disable email login, right? So we have authentication methods, and we have here, okay, so right here, okay, so it looks like it's this div right here. So I see this allow email and password login, right? And so I look for, so it looks like this entire div right here is that feature, is that enable, disable email, password login feature. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to rework it and hopefully build out the option to enable, disable ReCAPTCHA. All right, so let's go ahead and copy, and we are going to paste it underneath. Okay. All right. So this is, ooh, 1 second. I want to make sure that, because we have, oh, okay. Let's just make sure we are not. All right. So we have this. Okay. All right. We have this field set. Okay. And I'm just making sure. Okay, so those are the authentication providers. That's not what we, okay, all right, okay. And then this is our div here, right? I just want to make sure that I am pulling the right section. All right, and I think everything is contained in this field set right here. 1 second, I just want to test something and make sure that, let me cut it out and save and see what happens on the front end. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make sure that I'm actually grabbing the entire option. Okay. All right. So it looks like I grabbed everything. Okay. So let's, aha, here we go. So this is it down here. See? So this is what I'm looking for. Oh, and everything is in a field set. Okay. So this is, so this up here, this div up here is the option to allow login. And this down here is the option to allow registration. So that's what I'm going to duplicate and use to build my feature. So let's go ahead and grab this div, copy, paste. All right. And so I'm going to build that out into my feature. And it looks like okay, right. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm not sure how all this is set up, right? Like this option to allow email sign up. So what I like to do is I just like to run like a search in VS Code. So I'm going to copy this right here, and I'm going to run a search and see kind of all the places that that appears, because that's going to give me an idea of how that particular feature is hooked up in the code base. And so I have a registrations controller over there. I have a configs controller, all right, and I have some kind of constants file right there. I have a model file. Just so if you see what I'm doing, I'm opening kind of all the files where this phrase appears, and it's going to help me to figure out how is it hooked up, and that way I can figure out how to hook up my feature. Now we see all these instances here are in our show page, and we're already there, so I don't need to open that up. I have the all right, this another file, and then I have some spec files down here. Okay, and we're not doing specs in this video, so I can leave those for now, but those are the files where you can write your specs. All right, so I think I have everything open, so why don't we go ahead and walk through and kind of see what's going on. So this is our show page. All right, now this is our controller, and this is the registrations controller. So this is basically the controller that governs email sign up, and we have some blocks here, like not so okay, so the create action, which is creating the user account using email and password, it's not authorized unless allow email password registration is true or the site is waiting on the first user. Okay, all right. All right, so we're probably going to come back to this file, because if we are going to enable ReCAPTCHA and ReCAPTCHA hasn't been completed, then we definitely don't want the user to be created, right? So that we're probably going to be working in this file. So I'm going to leave it open. Let's go to the configs controller. Okay, so this is we have like an allowed params array here, and we have this included. Okay, so I'm probably going to want to include my feature in this list as well, since email sign up is here. So we leave this file open. Now here we have some constants that are defined, and it looks like this is the information that goes on the front end. So for example, we see here, you know, this description, can users sign up with only email and password? And if we remember on the front end, let me refresh, we do have that text right here. Can users sign up? So this file is supplying that information. So I'm probably going to want to populate this file as well with my feature. So we leave that open. All right, now this is the site config model. We definitely want to add our field, the field that we are going to be toggling true false. We're going to add that here. So this file stays open. And finally, we have this file, and it seems to be, this is the actual email sign up page, but we are rendering some partials here. So let's go ahead. And so if the parameter, if the URL has a parameter, a state parameter equal to email sign up, and we are allowing email sign up, then we are rendering this form. So I probably want to open this particular form because that's where I'm going to stick the ReCAPTCHA in. So let's go ahead and look for that. So shared authentication email registration form. So I have the text really big so that it's easy to see. All right, so let's go to our views, and we know it's in the shared folder, and it's under authentication, and it is the email registration form. So this is it right there. All right, let's close this. All right, and so this is the actual email registration form, and we are probably going to stick our ReCAPTCHA right under there. All right, okay, so let's go ahead and start hooking things up, right? registrations. I just need to get back to show. All right. Okay. All right. So this is the div that I am repurposing. So let's go ahead and start repurposing. So I'm going to call this require ReCAPTCHA during email sign up. I think that's descriptive enough. All right. During email sign up. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and copy that because we are going to be using this in multiple places. All right. So we're going to create this field in the site config model just in a minute, but let me go ahead and paste that there. And then this is the label, and we are going to paste this here. And with this admin config label, I believe we can specify the actual label text. If you don't specify the label text, then it will use this phrase as the label text, but we're going to specify the label text because we have a mockup. And so our label text is enable Google ReCAPTCHA for email password registration. So let's go ahead and put that here. All right. Okay. And then this is where we're pulling from that constants file. And so we're going to change this to our purpose, and it's going to be the description. All right. So if we go now to our front end, we should see the changes that we just made, right? But we haven't, the reason for this error is we haven't actually defined this field for site config. So we have to do that first. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so let's go into the site config model. All right, so right here underneath, so we have the allow registration and the allow login. So let's go ahead and just plug our field in here, require ReCAPTCHA, and the type is Boolean, which means it's true false. And we are going to default to true. All right. Okay. Now, we also need to update the constants file. So we have registration login. So let's go ahead and copy this. And we are going to, actually, let me just type it out. And so this is require ReCAPTCHA. All right. And right, and let's go to the mockup, and it says people will be required to fill out a CAPTCHA when they are creating a new account in your community. That's pretty long. All right, so let's grab the first part. People will be required to fill out a CAPTCHA. All right. Okay. All right. And the rest when they're creating a new account in your community. Community. All right. Okay. And we just have a little error. The line is too long. That's fine. And then we need a placeholder, which in this case it's a checkbox. So we do not need a placeholder, but we're just going to define it as empty. All right. Okay, so that's the constant. And then remember in the configs controller, because we need to allow those parameters. And so we are going to add that to the list of things. All right. Registrations controller, no. I think just to get it to show up on the front end, I think we've done everything that we need to do. So let's go ahead and see what it looks like. Let's refresh. Great. No more errors. All right. And so this is our feature. And as we can see, we can toggle it either enabled or disabled. Wonderful. All right. So let us continue. Now, if we go back to our mock, we see that we need the fields for the reCAPTCHA keys right up underneath there. So let's go hunting for that. We're going to go back to our config show page, and I'm just going to, let me find Google. All right, that's the analytics, but here we go. Here's our reCAPTCHA, all right? And so we have this whole section, it looks like, that is producing that. And it looks like the actual fields are contained within this div. Now, if we look on the front end, we see that, so we have the two keys, and then we have a confirmation. This is basically for you to update the changes that you've made. And I believe that this part over here is generated with this line of code there. So we're not going to need that because we're moving it into a different section. But let's go ahead and copy this div right here, because this part up here, I believe, governs the toggle expand and collapse. That's what's happening over there. All right, so let's go ahead and cut that out and come back up to our allow or disallow reCAPTCHA, which is right here. And we are going to place it, this is our div. We're going to place it right underneath there. And let's go ahead and fix the indentation, right? All right, so let's make sure everything is nicely lined up, and then we're going to get rid of that update configuration field and button. All right, so let's see what it looks like on the front end. All right, so if we go down to the Google reCAPTCHA, see, it's nothing's popping up because we've taken it out. And if we go to authentication, we see, yay, we see our keys. All right, or the field for our keys. Great. All right, so we're now going to go into the front end and go to the email sign up form and hook the reCAPTCHA action. You at least display the box for the reCAPTCHA, and then kind of make sure everything's hooked up, under the hood. Right? So for that, I am going to need an incognito window, and that allows us just to have like a separate session. All right, so this is the front end, and we are going to create an account, and we're going to sign up with email. All right, so this is our email sign up form right here, and we need the reCAPTCHA to go underneath there. All right, so I've never worked with reCAPTCHA before on this code base, so I'm going to go into the code and I'm going to search for reCAPTCHA. I do know that we have it implemented somewhere elsewhere in the code base, so I'm just going to look for that and repurpose. All right, so we don't need those files, and so we see here we have a feedback messages controller. All right, feedback messages, and so maybe the feedback message feature has reCAPTCHA enabled. These are the files that we've been working on right here, so we can minimize. All right, and then this is feedback messages spec. Okay, so looks like the feedback message feature will allow us to use the reCAPTCHA. All right, so let's go ahead and hunt for feedback messages in our code base. And I happen to have an idea where that lives. So we go to views, feedback messages, all right? And we have a form, okay? And I'm going to show you, I'll show you what this looks like on the front end. All right, great. This looks like our reCAPTCHA block right here. So it's checking if there is a secret key in the site configuration and a site key If both are present, then we are rendering this reCAPTCHA block. And just looking at the way it is, I strongly suspect that we have a reCAPTCHA gem that is helping us to be able to render this in our code base. Anyway, we're going to grab this, right? Because this is what we need. And let me show it to you on the front end just so that it makes sense. Feedback. Wait, that's not the way to get there. Let's say we open an article and then we go to report abuse. So this is the this is actually the front end for that feedback messages file that we just looked at. And as you can see, we have the we have the reCAPTCHA here. We don't have valid keys right now, and so that's why you see this isn't rendering, but this is our reCAPTCHA field. All right, so that is what we are repurposing. Okay, so we go back into the code and we copied this, right? Yes, we did. So let's close it. So let's go to our email registration form and pop this right in. All right, now this looks like some kind of hidden field. This is the sign up button right here. So I'm going to pop it right there, right above the sign up button. Let's put some space. All right. And let's see what it looks like on the front end. There we go. That is it. We need some padding. Let's go ahead, just fix it now. Let's go ahead and add, we have a class and then we have margin top, let's say 3, right? And just give it some padding so it's not squished against the field above it. Excellent. Wonderful. Okay. Let me adjust here. All right. So we are making progress. So the next step is to actually, so we have the reCAPTCHA. So we have the option to enable, disable, and right now we're displaying the reCAPTCHA, but let's set it up so that when that option is disabled, we don't see this field. So we're going to place sort of like an if around the reCAPTCHA code, right? So we already have an if statement that surrounds it, and it's basically saying if none of these keys are present, then don't render it. So only render if it's present. Now we're going to add a third check, right? We're going to add a third check, and our third check is, let me go ahead and copy this because I don't want to type it and type it wrong. All right. Okay. And so the third check is going to be and site config, this option is true, right? It returns true. Okay. All right. So let's save that and let's go ahead. So we're going to switch things around because right now it is enabled, I believe. And so we're going to see it. So let's come over to our configuration section and we are going to disable that and then come down here and put in the confirmation text in order to update the site configuration. And if we go back to the authentication section, we see that this is disabled. It's not checked. Now let's re-render our email sign up page and the reCAPTCHA is gone, right? So that part is hooked up, right? That part is hooked up. We have enabled, we have implemented the ability to enable or disable reCAPTCHA. Now we actually have to get the reCAPTCHA to work. I think I'm going to do that in the next video. So where we're heading from here is we're going to actually hook the reCAPTCHA up to the account creation action. And so if the user signing up doesn't complete the reCAPTCHA, then their account is not going to be created and there's going to be an error message telling them that they need to complete the reCAPTCHA. So we're going to hook that up. The next thing we're going to do is, it doesn't make sense if this is disabled, if the reCAPTCHA option is disabled, it doesn't make sense for the site key field and the secret key field to still be showing. That doesn't really make sense. And so we are going to set this up so that when this is not checked, we don't see these fields. And that's like a user experience. It's like a nice perk, right? And, helps to minimize confusion. And so that's going to be the second thing that we do. And then the third thing that we do is we are going to write tests. We're going to write RSpec tests to test all this functionality. So I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.